Traditional snacks sold at 1800s Vietnamese floating markets. Hey guys, tonight we drift back into a world where the rivers themselves are the streets where smoke curls from little boat stoves, and every ripple carries the scent of something sweet fried or vaguely fermented. You're floating through the watery veins of 1800s southern Vietnam, where floating markets aren't a tourist trap. They're the only way you get breakfast gossip and possibly a toothache. Around you, a dizzying dance of boats bumps gently against each other, each one swaying with the rhythm of paddles and trade. There's a faint mist clinging to the water like a morning blanket that hasn't quite let go, and through it you hear the squawk of chickens, the giggle of a child clutching a rice ball, and somewhere someone hawking something as very good for your knees. You'll take their word for it. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, post your location and what time it is where you are. I love seeing how far this sleepy little river floats. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You blink as a paddle thunks softly against the side of your boat. You're in Kai Rung Market, one of the oldest and most bustling floating markets in the Mekong Delta. It's early, maybe too early by modern standards, but here dawn is prime time. Wooden sampans float past like aquatic food trucks, only instead of wheels, they've got long bamboo poles jutting skyward with samples of what they're selling tied on top. A pineapple here, a daikon there, floating signposts in this watery maze. A vendor, bare-chested and weathered as driftwood, slides up beside you. "Shoi nong jai," he shouts, balancing a steaming pot on what looks like a glorified ironing board mounted to his canoe. Sticky rice, he means. And yes, it's hot. You trudge mentally through your still sleepy brain. Sticky rice is basic, right? Not here. Here it's an art. There's xoi jiao, zhan golden, with mung beans and coconut shreds, or the purple-hued xoi la, cam dyed naturally from magenta leaves. He scoops you a portion with a calloused hand, wraps it in a banana leaf with the precision of a gift wrapper, and plops on a spoonful of crushed peanuts, fried shallots, and a hint of sugar. Sweet, savory, sticky. If carbs could hug you, this is how they do it. As you chew slowly, the rice warm in your hand, you spot another boat nudging through the current. A woman in a wide conical hat is stacking bamboo steamers like a pagoda. She offers you ban bo hap steamed rice cakes so light and spongy you wonder if they're made of ghost breath. The name translates to cow cake, which thankfully has nothing to do with actual cows. Historians still argue whether the bo in the name refers to its bouncy texture or the gentle bubbling of the batter as it ferments. Either way, your mouth's too busy to care. The boats here are alive not just with food, but with barter banter and the kind of calculated chaos that would make a modern health inspector weep. A kid with a kettle bigger than his head pours boiling water over jars of dried lotus seeds, and you realize you're sipping tea made by someone who probably can't multiply yet. Behind him, another child, maybe his sister, kneels in their boat's stern fanning coals beneath a sticky rice steamer. If this were your childhood, you'd probably be grounded for getting near boiling anything. But here you're apprenticing by age 6. The air smells like coconut lemongrass smoke and occasionally something suspiciously fishy. That's normal. The Mekong doesn't do bland. Your paddle boat guide chuckles as you wince at a nearby fish sauce vendor. Smell bad, taste good, he shrugs. Kind of like your last relationship. Further down the floating lane, you pass a trio of women sitting cross-legged on a boat's deck, wrapping something quickly in lotus leaves. It's ban. It is sticky rice dumpling with mung bean paste, or sometimes pork-shaped like little pyramids. The trick, they say, is in the fold. One too loose and the dumpling will burst in the pot, one too tight and it cooks unevenly. There's no recipe written down, just generations of muscle memory, and maybe a curse or two if you mess it up. One of the women lets you try. Your dumpling looks like a deflated football. They all politely laugh the way people do when your karaoke is technically music adjacent. It's fine. You're here to eat, not to win dumpling origami championships. As your boat glides on, you spot a man with a parrot on his shoulder and a small bronze bell. He's not selling snacks, he's announcing them. Floating vendors hire him to paddle through the market, clanging and hollering like a medieval town crier. One vendor even claims he used to be in the imperial kitchens of Hui. Historians still argue whether any palace chef would agree to shout Ban Kwai Mi Nong Jai with a bird yelling over him, but hey, stranger things have floated downriver. You lean back against the side of the boat, your hands sticky from rice and banana leaf oils, your belly warming into that slow, contented glow. This market isn't just about selling, it's about surviving. Rice roots sugar and strategy. A single bad season could sink a family's livelihood, literally. That's why even the snacks carry weight, portable, calorie dense, and made to last until the next boat stop or revolution. And as you drift past a vendor with tiny jars of chili salt and preserved tamarind, you're reminded that in these waters, sweetness and sting often come in the same bite. You're still licking a bit of peanut dust from your fingers when the unmistakable rustle of banana leaves draws your attention again. Just ahead, a boat with faded red paint and two dangling coconuts sways slightly in the current. The woman on board waves with a slow grace, as if she's been waiting for you since dawn. Her arms are wiry, her cheeks sun-darkened and creased like dried mango skin, and her hat droops slightly from the weight of morning mist. She doesn't shout her wares. No need, her steaming baskets do the talking. She lifts a lid and a puff of fragrant warmth rolls over you like a lazy cat, the scent of glutinous rice mixed with ginger mung beans, and something faintly nutty. This is soy again, but now in full colorful glory. Not just one kind. This woman is a sticky rice maestro. She unwraps one parcel revealing Irak soy gak, dyed a rich red-orange from the gasi fruit which looks like a spiky alien orb and supposedly contains more beta-carotene than carrots and more lycopene than tomatoes, which might explain why your eyes feel sharper just smelling it. She layers a bit of coconut cream on top and dusts it with toasted sesame seeds before handing it to you with a smile so proud you'd think she birthed it herself. Another packet reveals Drake Soy Jiao Jen, sticky rice with black beans. Earthy, simple, and something about it reminds you of rainy school mornings, even if you didn't go to school in 1800s Vietnam. Memories weird like that. There's also Ik Soy Bap corn, sticky rice, chewy, nutty, and slightly sweet. Historians still argue whether this dish originated from the Northern Highlands or evolved from older Cham traditions, but one thing's certain, it's perfect fuel for a day of haggling and paddling. As you chew, a small girl in the vendor's boat takes a banana leaf and folds it into a makeshift cup. She pours you a warm splash of Nuoc La Duar, pandan leaf water, subtly sweet green like the first sprout after monsoon, and possibly a cousin of the grass your neighbor mows every Sunday. But tastier. Now, it's impossible not to notice every snack here is bundled in something that once grew. Banana leaves, lotus leaves, woven pandan mats. Plastic. You won't see that for over a century. These vendors are zero waste before that was a lifestyle trend on social media. You wonder what their reaction would be to TikTok. Probably just a blank stare and another scoop of sticky rice. As you float farther, you spot a vendor pressing little rice balls into a mold. Her hands move so quickly they blur. She's making bon ran, sweet-fried, glutinous rice balls filled with mung bean paste. Crispy on the outside, chewy inside, and if you catch them fresh out of the oil, they crackle gently like tiny applause. One bite and your brain hits that pleasure spot that makes you forget rent deadlines and whatever that weird rash on your arm is. Another boat pulls alongside this one lower in the water, either heavily loaded or sneakily sinking. A hunched man with an impossibly long beard grins at you offering a coconut leaf cone filled with bangai. It's a dark, sticky cake made from glutinous rice flour and rami leaf paste. The leaf turns it nearly black, and the texture is somewhere between mochi and midnight. Wrapped inside is a little treasure-sweet coconut mung bean, and sometimes even bits of winter melon. He says it keeps for days, maybe weeks, maybe decades depending on who you ask. He claims the recipe came from his grandmother, who smuggled it out of a royal temple kitchen disguised as laundry. Historians still argue whether any such kitchen espionage ever happened, or whether that's just what you say to make your cake sound cooler. But you nod solemnly, partly out of respect and partly because your mouth is too full to speak. You pause for a moment, letting the boat drift sideways as you take in the panorama. This market is more than commerce, it's choreography. Boats nudge and spin, voices rise and fall. Children leap between decks like caffeinated frogs, and everywhere food is passed from one hand to another like edible currency. You try to imagine this happening with vending machines and barcodes. It doesn't work. Someone calls out and your boatman steers toward a small, low canoe shaded by banana fronds. Inside, two women are frying something over an open flame. Ban choy xian, deep-fried banana fritters. The bananas are battered and tossed into sizzling oil, bubbling and crisping, while the vendors hum a folk tune that's more rhythm than melody. They press the fritters flat with wooden paddles, giving them a rustic, lacy edge. A few sesame seeds sprinkle off like confetti. When you bite in, it's a flavor bomb, sweet, crunchy, warm, slightly smoky. You close your eyes. This could end wars, or start a few. The younger woman nudges you gently and points to a small cloth pouch by your foot. Inside, two more fritters, wrapped with care, tied with a reed. For later, she says in a whisper that might as well be magic. As the day warms, the colors shift. The morning's gentle grays and soft oranges are overtaken by sharper blues, louder reds. More boats arrive, more vendors shout, and you see baskets of unfamiliar ingredients, taros, wild mushrooms, finger-sized yams along with live ducks who seem vaguely offended by everything. You sip more pen and water and watch as a boat glides past carrying what looks like a floating altar. Fruits, rice, wine, and incense sticks all stacked together, an offering boat perhaps. For ancestors or gods, or just the river spirit who keeps the tide from flipping everyone over. Superstition runs deep here, stitched into every tradition. A nearby vendor cracks open a joke about someone trying to fry rice on a bamboo hat, and half the market chuckles. You don't get it, but you laugh anyway. It's that kind of place. And as your boat shifts course toward the scent of something frying in clay pans, you realize you've barely scratched the surface. The rice alone could fill a novel. You've got dough, sugar, pickles, and something vaguely shellfishy yet to face. And honestly, you're not sure your stomach will survive this. By now, your fingers have gone from sticky to shiny to mysteriously powdery, and your stomach's doing that thing where it's full but still intensely curious. You haven't even touched anything fried in coconut oil yet, which in 1800s floating markets is basically skipping dessert and therapy all at once. Your boat rocks gently toward a low smoky vessel where a woman crouches over a flat, sizzling griddle balanced on two bricks and a charcoal fire. She's flipping something that crackles just right. Ban jiao. No, not the fancy restaurant kind served with porcelain tongs and Instagram filters. The real deal floating market style where the skillet's edge is blackened from years of stories and the batter sizzles like rain on a metal roof. She pours a pale yellow mixture, rice, flour, turmeric, and water, then swirls the pan with a practiced wrist. In seconds, she tosses in slivers of pork, belly hand-peeled shrimp, and a fistful of bean sprouts that squeak when they hit the hot pan. The result is a rice flour crepe that folds like a lazy half moon, edges crispy, middle gooey. She wraps it in a mustard leaf, adds a few sprigs of fish mint, which, yes, tastes exactly like fish. And Mint had an awkward love child and passes it over with a grin. It's messy. You eat it with your hands. Somewhere in the world, a Michelin inspector cries. You chew slowly. Each bite snaps, melts, and crunches in strange little symphonies. No dipping sauce, just a squeeze of lime, and a side glance from her husband who's frying another batch and humming like this is the best part of his day. Behind them, a smaller boat knocks gently against theirs. A boy, maybe 10 years old, is arranging little palm leaf cups in rows like he's preparing a forest tea party. Inside each cup is a jiggly golden treat, bandalon, the pigskin cake. Relax, no, pigs were harmed. The name refers to its texture, which resembles pig skin, elastic, glossy layered. It's made from rice flour tapioca, starch coconut milk, and panna, often alternating with a mung bean layer. Each bite is chewy cold and faintly sweet, the kind of dessert that makes your teeth hum softly in approval. He pokes one with a finger to test for jiggle factor, then offers it to you without a word. You take one. It wobbles. Your stomach considers a protest. You ignore it. From behind him, an old woman laughs, revealing exactly 2 teeth and 1,000 stories. She holds up a bamboo box with slits carved in the top. Inside are Bon to Chim bird's nest cakes. Not the fancy kind made from bird spit, yes, that's a thing, but rustic little fried clusters of rice threads molded by hand to look like tangled nests. Sometimes there's a peanut or a ball of palm sugar tucked into the middle like an egg. She gestures for you to try one. You do. It's crispy, vaguely caramelized, and as sweet as a whispered insult. Apparently, they were originally made for temple offerings and later became popular with market traders who needed snacks that wouldn't spoil during long paddles. Historians still argue whether the cakes were first crafted in Buddhist monasteries or adapted from Cham funeral food. Either way, you're eating history disguised as a snack. Your boat nudges along and you pass what appears to be a traveling pancake emporium. A wiry man, shirtless, but with the confidence of a man who's never dropped a single crepe, is ladling out coconut batter into miniature clay molds, arranged in a circle over a wood fire. He's making cut tiny fried rice cakes, each with a pool of coconut cream and a shrimp curled like a sleepy comma in the middle. He lifts the heavy iron lid and the steam punches you in the face, sweet, salty, slightly fermented. He gives you a set of 3 on a banana leaf, then points at your hand like, "That's your plate. Deal with it." You bite in. It's crunchy on the edges, gooey in the center, and the shrimp pops with that salty sweetness unique to Mekong brine. "Eat it fast," he says, or he gets sad. You don't know if he means the cake or himself, but either way you comply. As you munch, your boat drifts toward a narrow tributary where the water darkens, the trees press closer, and the air thickens with wood smoke and palm sugar. You're entering desert territory now, deep into the lands of candied roots and sticky things with uncertain shelf lives. A young couple in a boat shaded by nipa palms offers che lam, a dense, chewy bar made of glutinous rice ginger molasses and roasted peanuts. It's Vietnam's answer to energy bars, except instead of sleek plastic wrappers, it's just wrapped in dried leaves and a smile. You try one. It sticks to your teeth in a way that could end marriages. But it's good. Deep warming, and somehow makes you feel like you just finished planting a field even though you've done nothing today but chew and nod politely. Nearby, a vendor heats khoai minong, grilled cassava cakes made with coconut milk and a bit of salt. She slices them into thumb-sized chunks and offers them from a charred wooden plank. The cassava is earthy, the coconut creamy, and your brain briefly debates whether this qualifies as breakfast, lunch, or spiritual awakening. Your boat pauses briefly as 2 paddlers argue over who gets to dock first. You sip warm sugarcane juice from a bamboo straw and try not to make eye contact. One of them finally yields, muttering something about last time, and you float on deeper into the labyrinth. You spot a boat that's less food stall, more portable candy lab. A wiry man is pulling what looks like taffy between 2 wooden posts, folding, stretching, folding again. It's KO, hand-pulled molasses candy that hardens into a chewy jaw-challenging treat. He breaks off a hunk and wraps it in newspaper. 1 tooth per bite, he warns with a grin. You take the smallest possible piece. Your molars groan, but your soul nods in approval. As you lean back, breath sticky and eyes glazed, a rooster crows in the distance. Not the wake-up kind, but the kind that reminds you the sun's getting stronger and the shade is disappearing. And you think just maybe the fried stuff has only begun. You rub a bit of molasses from your lip as the boat glides onward, the river now dappled with shards of sunlight piercing through nipa palm fronds. It's getting hotter, like shirt sticking to your back hot, and you're starting to understand why most vendors here wear nothing heavier than a loose cotton tunic and a permanent layer of sweat. A shout rings out ahead, short, rhythmic, almost melodic. I, Ban Kong Jai. It bounces over the water like a chant. Your boatman perks up and steers with purpose. This isn't just a snack, it's the snack Ban Kong, the southern Vietnamese answer to, how do we make beans and batter dangerously addictive? You approach the source, a middle-aged woman crouched over a deep iron cauldron of bubbling oil ladle in one hand and a metal cylinder mold in the other. This isn't just frying, it's an art. She dips the mold in a mung bean and minced pork batter, drops in a few shrimp, then lowers it into the oil. A chorus of sizzles bursts forth. Seconds later, she slides out a golden, crispy tower, the perfect size for palm cradling. It's like a savory cupcake, but crunchy and briny and absolutely illegal in at least 5 modern health codes. You take a bite. The shell shatters like thin ice, the inside steams, and the mung beans hum a bass note of nuttiness under the salty pork. This dish, some say, has roots in Khmer communities along the Mekong, who adapted it from Indian-style fritters. Historians still argue whether the French occupation influenced the use of molds, or whether locals simply thought, hey, we can fry that. Whatever the truth, your taste buds are believers. Next to her boat, a teen is selling ban cam, crispy fried, glutinous rice balls coated in sesame and filled with molten mung bean paste. They're the sweet cousins to bon kong, and they come with a trick. If you get them fresh, they squeak when you bite them. No joke. It's the sound of the delicate shell cracking under pressure, like biting into a golden bubble. She warns you to wait a second. You don't. Your tongue pays the price, but your soul thanks you. These are the kinds of things people write nostalgic Facebook posts about. Not that they have Facebook yet. You try to picture this vendor on TikTok doing a mukbang of her own food. She'd go viral in 5 minutes easy. As the sun climbs, the floating market blooms further. Vendors shield themselves with wide hats and tied-up tarps. One boat drifts by with trays of fried delights stacked like edible Jenga, choy xian, banana fritters, kwai lang xian, sweet potato fritters, bap xian, fried corn cakes, and even ban kwai mon, deep-fried taro mashed into sweet patties and dusted with sugar like it's powdered snow. You try the taro one. It's soft, nutty with that faint floral aftertaste unique to taro, like a potato wearing perfume. There's crunch warmth and a strange moment of deja vu that makes you think of festival nights and questionable fair rides. Then there's ban tiao, puffy hollow sesame donuts that look unassuming but are sneaky good. Slightly sweet, not too greasy, and they make a satisfying poof when you poke them. The vendor lets you do it. Twice. Then tells you with a straight face that each one contains a spirit of joy, which might just be a metaphor for baking soda, but still. You reach for a second when something else steals your attention. A strong, roasty smell, dark, bitter, magnetic. Coffee. Nope. Bap nong mo han. Grilled corn slathered with scallion oil and fish sauce. Somehow it smells like a summer barbecue and a rice harvest rolled into one. It's the kind of dish that shouldn't work as a snack, but does. Grilled directly on open coals, brushed repeatedly with scallion-infused oil, and finished with a pinch of crushed peanuts. You nibble. It's smoky, greasy, salty, sweet, and the peanuts add crunch just where your teeth were getting bored. It feels like something invented by a hungry genius who only had 5 ingredients and too much time. A kid in a neighboring boat offers you a chunk of ban tet xian. Yes, that's deep-fried, sticky rice rolls. Imagine taking sticky rice, wrapping it around fatty pork and mung beans, steaming it for hours, and then saying, now let's fry this sucker. It's the kind of logic that builds empires or heartburn. Either way, you're on board. Bite, crunch. The outer layer is golden and firm, while the inside is dense and rich. Your chewing slows to a dreamlike tempo, and you consider just curling up and letting the river rock you to sleep. But then comes a shrill whistle and a boat careening sideways. A wiry man with a sunburned face is handing out cones of ko bongon, Vietnamese-style spun sugar. Think cotton candy, but a bit denser, and instead of pastel pinks and blues, it's gold like hay bales. He twirls a stick around the vat like he's casting a candy spell. You buy one, it immediately begins melting in the humidity, and by the time it hits your tongue, it's gone like sweet air. He says he makes it using a pedal-powered spinning tin over a charcoal pot. No electricity, no problem. He grins. Just leg day. And while you lick your fingers, someone else tosses a paper cone of Bon Fong Tom shrimp crackers onto your lap. These are puffed up over oil until they resemble crispy halos, thin as paper, but packed with umami and the faint promise of ocean breeze. You wonder aloud how long it took to perfect this many ways to fry food. The vendor chuckles and says generations, mistakes, and sometimes ghosts. Right, because there's always a ghost story in floating markets, someone's ancestor guiding their hand while mixing batter, or the whispered tale of a snack so good it summoned a river spirit. Historians still argue whether such stories were used to explain culinary improvisation or just scare away competitors. By now, the oil-slicked air is thick, the sunlight is bouncing off the water like paparazzi flashes, and your belly is negotiating surrender. You sit back, a fried shrimp cracker resting like a crown on your chest, and feel the sway of the boat gently lull you. But even as you close your eyes for a second, the scent of something sweet and definitely not fried wafts toward you. A soft perfume of coconut cane sugar and steamed banana leaves, which can only mean one thing. The desserts are coming. Your eyelids flutter open, caught between a nap and nirvana, just as the scent of steamed banana leaves snakes into your nose. It's like nature's own candy wrapper, warm and fragrant, and it leads you well your boat really to the next floating vendor. A narrow canoe trimmed with green paint that's chipped like a pirate ship is stacked high with triangular parcels bound in banana leaf twine. The woman paddling it smiles with her eyes and offers one with a nod. You take it carefully, these little bundles are hot. Unwrapping one is like opening a present from your sweet-toothed great-great-grandma, soft, sticky, slightly damp to the touch. This is Bon Choy hap-steamed banana cake. Made with ripe bananas, the black-spotted kind most people throw out tapioca starch and coconut milk. This cake jiggles slightly when nudged. It's sweet but not cloying, and every bite reminds you that bananas and coconut were absolutely meant to be together like karaoke and heartbreak. You devour it, the warm sugar humming on your tongue like a lullaby. Some historians say this dish evolved from Buddhist monastic recipes, a frugal way to use overripe fruit and rice leftovers. Others claim it came from ancient Khmer traditions. Historians still argue whether its name steamed banana undersells the actual genius behind it or whether that's the whole point. Your fingers are still sticky when another vendor tosses you a cube wrapped in banana leaf tied with thin red string. You open it to reveal bang it tran, glutinous rice dumplings stuffed with mung bean paste. They're soft and glisten in the morning light like newborn moons. Some are sweet, others savory with bits of sautéed shallot and ground pork. The sweet version dissolves like quiet joy. The savory one punches you with umami. You're not mad about either. The seller's a teenager, one hand constantly brushing hair out of her eyes, the other expertly rolling fresh ones on a wooden board. She doesn't speak much, but when you ask how long it takes to get the dough just right, she shrugs and says, "My grandmother says your hands have to remember before your brain does." You nod like you understand. You don't not really, but that kind of wisdom deserves a nod. The boat drifts along, and another scent takes the reins. Warm coconut cream and toasted rice. You spot a setup that looks more like a chemistry lab than a kitchen, multiple clay pots arranged over embers lids, rising in unison like sleepy turtles. You've reached Che territory. A middle-aged man with a giant wooden ladle waves you over and offers a cup of chebaba. No, it's not a secret society. It's a coconut-based sweet soup with taro cassava and yellow beans, served hot or cold depending on how mad you want your stomach to be. He dips the ladle deep into the clay pot, stirs slowly, and fills a small porcelain bowl just for you. You sip. It's thick, creamy, and gently sweet. The taro's starchy, the beans are soft, and the cassava does that mysterious disappearing act where it seems bland until halfway through the bite, and then bam, earthy sweetness. There's also che jiao jian, black bean sweet soup served cold with crushed ice and thick syrup. The idea of cold beans might terrify your inner child, but one spoonful later and you're a convert. It's refreshing with just enough sweetness to make your molars tingle politely. The vendor pulls a face and says, "Americans have Sundays. We have che." You're not a little offended on behalf of Sundays, but fair. Further along, a woman with impossibly neat hair sells che troi nog rice dumplings floating in ginger syrup. You watch as she ladles 2 dumplings into a bowl steam, curling upward like incense. Inside the dumplings, mung bean paste. Always mung bean paste. It's the tofu of Vietnamese sweets, always showing up, always being someone else. You take a bite. The dough is stretchy and soft, and the syrup is warm and spicy enough to wake the ancestor in your bones. She chuckles when you exhale sharply. "Good for circulation," she says, like that explains everything. And maybe it does. Another boat floats by like an edible mirage. On board are glass jars filled with mysterious cubes, sticks and balls. The man rowing gestures with 2 fingers and holds up something between a jawbreaker and a spice ball. "Ko dua," he says, coconut candy. This isn't your grandma's Werther's original. These are hand-pulled sweets made from coconut milk malt syrup and sometimes peanuts or durian. The texture varies, some are taffy-like, others brittle, but all of them stick in your teeth like a clingy X. You chew slowly, trying to figure out if the flavor is coconut, peanut, or both. Then there's that haunting aftertaste durian. Just a whisper of it, enough to make you raise an eyebrow. The vendor smirks. "Only a little," he says. One jar catches your eye, bright red cubes with white centers. "Keo Maison," he says, sesame and malt candies from Hue. They're tough, chewy, and packed with roasted sesame seeds. You pop one in and suddenly understand why the royal court used to gift these. They last forever. By the time you finish one, a whole dynasty could rise and fall. You thank him with a polite bow, mouth too full to speak, and drift along to a boat decked out in vivid green. This one specializes in ban la mo jelly-like leaf cakes tinted with extract from the la mo plant. They're slippery, mildly sweet, and served cold in banana leaf cups. You slurp one like a jelly oyster. The taste earthy, grassy, slightly minty like what you imagine forest spirits eat on picnics. Historians still argue whether ban la mo originated in herbal medicine circles or just from a bored cook with too many leaves and too few customers. As the afternoon heat settles like a wool blanket, you begin to notice that things are quieter now. Boats slow, vendors rest. The water's surface glints with lazy light, and the air thickens with humidity and contentment. You lie back belly full of coconut milk fried dough and questionable candy, while a nearby boat paddler plays a tune on a bamboo flute. It's gentle meandering like the river itself. You smile, because the only thing better than fried banana is a nap with banana leaves rustling above you. And you haven't even touched the rice paper wonders yet. A ripple of wind stirs your hair as your boat slides around a slow bend in the canal. The fried sweets and warm che still lounge happily in your belly, but your curiosity clicks back into gear when a familiar papery rustle drifts across the water. That sound, like parchment kissing the wind, can only mean one thing: ban trang, or rice paper in all its thin, flexible glory. Here on the river, rice paper isn't just a wrapping, it's a canvas, a playground, and occasionally a napkin in emergencies. You drift toward a wide, flat-bottomed boat with trays of rice paper laid out to dry, like dragonfly wings in the sun. A woman wearing an emerald baba top and a pink checkered scarf gestures you over. Her hands are ghosted with rice flour, her fingers moving with the rhythm of someone who's rolled a million of these and still isn't tired. She offers you a bánh tráng nuông, the Vietnamese cousin of pizza. If pizza were much thinner, crispier, and born on a farm. She places a circular sheet of rice paper over a wire grill, then slathers it with egg sprinkles on scallions, bits of dried shrimp, and sometimes, just for flair, a squirt of spicy sauce and shredded beef jerky. You take a bite and it crunches like biting into a savory fan. The flavors burst through salty, spicy, eggy with the grilled aroma pulling it all together. And yes, it is technically street food, but in that bite you taste generations of snack evolution condensed into one crispy disc. Some believe bánh tráng nuông was originally a rural student's food, cheap, quick, and endlessly customizable. Others think it was just a natural consequence of rice paper being left too close to the fire one day. Historians still argue whether it's a true modern snack or if its roots go much deeper into pre-colonial kitchens. You ask the vendor how many versions exist. She laughs, as many as there are bored teenagers and leftover toppings. Your boat pulls beside another smaller one, where a young boy demonstrates how to soften rice paper in water, then wrap it around herbs, shrimp, and noodles. Goi quan, fresh spring rolls. They're cool to the touch, tight like little burrito scrolls. And they're eaten with a peanut hoisin dipping sauce so thick it clings to the roll like gossip in a small village. You dip, bite, and chew slowly. The rice paper has a slight chewiness, giving way to crunchy vegetables and chilled shrimp. It's the total opposite of the fried chaos you've just survived, and your tongue thanks you. Further down, you spot the lesser-known cousin, bi quan. Rice paper rolls filled with shredded pork skin, herbs, and thin noodles. There's a slight crunch from the skin and a mysterious, almost nutty flavor that's impossible to pin down. It lingers on the tongue like a forgotten song. The vendor here is an old man with a crooked smile and surprisingly buff forearms. He rolls these in seconds, each tighter than a banker's schedule. He says the pork skin is tossed in roasted rice powder for texture, and the dish used to be saved for special occasions. Now he shrugs. It's snack o'clock. You chuckle through your mouthful. The rice paper holds it all together like edible cling wrap, but friendlier. You watch as other boats prepare bánh tráng quan. Thin rice paper sheets layered with coconut floss, sugar, and sesame, then rolled like sweet cigars. You try one. It melts like a memory light, sugary toasty. The sesame seeds pop between your teeth like little firecrackers. Nearby, a woman demonstrates the drying process. She spreads a ladle of rice batter over a cloth stretched tight like a drum, suspended above a steaming pot. A few seconds later, she peels off a translucent disc with a bamboo stick and lays it onto a woven mat to dry. Repeat, repeat, repeat. You can't look away. It's hypnotic. It's ancient. There's even a rice paper variant studded with black sesame or coconut flakes, delicate and just barely sweet. Some versions are grilled until they puff up like edible clouds. Others stay chewy, flexible, perfect for folding around roasted peanuts and bits of sugarcane. An older vendor tells you the rice paper's origins date back hundreds of years, likely from rural villages in the Red River Delta, where rice was more plentiful than silver. We eat rice, we drink rice, and if we could breathe rice, we would, she says with a wink. You snack on Bon Trang Mi, a tangy, sweet and sour version smeared with tamarind paste, chili flakes, and sugar, then folded like sticky origami. It's sour enough to make you blink and sweet enough to keep you coming back. It's the kind of snack that would destroy your dental fillings, but you'd let it. A group of kids drift by on a small boat, each holding a strip of seasoned rice paper, like it's a carnival treat. Some versions are spicy, others sweet. One kid dips his in soy sauce, the other in condensed milk. You make a face. He dares you to try. You do. Somehow it works. Somehow you regret nothing. Historians still argue whether these strange combinations reflect traditional pairings or if children are just culinary chaos agents. Probably both. You pause to appreciate the versatility of this humble ingredient. It holds fillings, becomes a crisp snack, morphs into dessert, and survives storage like a champ. It's basically the duct tape of Vietnamese cuisine, only edible and way more charming. You watch as a final vendor gently roasts a thick square of sesame rice paper over hot coals. It bubbles and bends like lava stone, then settles into a warm toasted sheet. She breaks off a piece and hands it to you, warning, "Careful, it's hot and loud." She's right. It crunches like stepping on autumn leaves and tastes like sweet, roasted simplicity. You want another. She says she's out. You sulk briefly, then remember the 2 rolls in your satchel and feel instantly better. As your boat slips through the calm, midday current, the paper-thin wonders leave you both satisfied and strangely light. You lean back imagining all the creative chaos it must have taken to invent so many versions of the same ingredient. And just as your mind starts to drift again, the air changes. Smokier now, savory, maybe a bit sour. Fermentation has entered the chat. Your nose wrinkles before your brain catches up. The scent is sharp, sour, and vaguely fishy, but not in a bad way. It's the kind of smell that divides a room, or in this case, a river. Half the vendors lean in hungrily. The other half row faster in the opposite direction. Congratulations! You've arrived at the floating market's fermentation zone. The boat you approach first looks more like a science lab. Clay jars and sealed earthenware crocks crowd every corner. Some are wrapped in banana leaves, others topped with fabric lids held down by river stones. An older woman missing 2 teeth but proud of her chili necklace gestures you over. She uncorks a jar with theatrical flair. The aroma hits you immediately like vinegar met shrimp paste on a hot day and decided to elope. She hands you a bite-sized morsel wrapped in a betel leaf. Inside nem chua, fermented pork, mildly spicy, slightly sour, and wrapped like a tiny edible gift. You bite in, and it's chewy tangy with a peppery edge that flares in your nose. Some say nem choias dates back to northern Vietnamese preservation techniques. Others claim it evolved as a convenient way to transform pork scraps into something snackable and socially explosive. Historians still argue whether it was ever intended to be eaten raw, or if that was just youthful rebellion turned national tradition. You chew carefully. The texture's oddly satisfying, like if jerky went to finishing school. Just beside that boat is a young woman selling mam nam, a pungent anchovy-based dip you're not entirely ready for. But curiosity's a pushy travel companion. She hands you a slice of pineapple dipped lightly in the stuff. Oh, it's like an umami grenade went off in a fruit salad. Salty, fishy, sweet, tangy all at once. Your mouth is stunned. You blink. She grins. Good right, she asks, already knowing the answer's complicated. Mam nam isn't a snack on its own, but it's inseparable from the fermented snack landscape. It makes the ordinary extraordinary, or at least memorable. Some vendors mix it with garlic, sugar, lime, and chilies for a dipping sauce that could wake the dead. Others slather it directly onto rice crackers for a DIY panic attack. You're handed one next, bong trang mam, rukurs, grilled rice paper topped with fermented shrimp paste and dried shallots. The paste is dark and glossy, spread thin but potent. You take a cautious nibble. Somehow it works. The shrimp paste punches hard, then backs off to let the crisp rice and fragrant shallots do their thing. It's one of those snacks that make no sense on paper, but in your mouth it's like a rebellious symphony. A bit salty, a bit burnt, a bit brilliant. You're still recovering when another vendor sails by with duamon pickled vegetables served in giant glass jars. The mixture of carrots, radish green papaya, and sometimes lotus stem is bright and multicolored, floating like edible confetti in a brine of vinegar, sugar, and chili. She spears a sliver of daikon and offers it like a bouquet. You bite, it crunches, it zings. It's like the vegetable version of a cheeky slap, refreshing, slightly spicy, and perfect after the richness of all the coconut desserts earlier. Some believe duamon was created to accompany New Year meals, offering a sour contrast to heavy rice cakes. Others say it was just a convenient way to salvage aging produce in the tropics. Historians still argue whether the inclusion of papaya was a regional preference or a deliberate digestion aid. Another boat offers something even bolder. Mam tam, fermented shrimp paste that's so intense it's usually served with grilled pork and heaps of herbs just to tone it down. A tiny plastic dish is thrust into your hands, topped with a grilled pork skewer and a dab of the grayish-purple paste. You sniff, you hesitate, you eat, you live. It's salty, yes, and explosively oceanic. But paired with the char of the pork and the bright, minty herbs, it works. Like perfume worn correctly, potent in the right places. The vendor winks and says, "We use this to test relationships." You laugh too loudly, relieved to still have taste buds. Your next stop, tray. A fermented pork skin sausage wrapped in guava leaves and straw. It looks more like a thatched roof than a food item, but once unwrapped, it reveals thin strips of pork and ear meat tossed with powdered rice, garlic, and a fierce amount of chili. You nibble. It's chewy, funky, and fiery, and strangely addictive. Some claim tray originated in central Vietnam as a way to preserve meat for long travels. Others believe it was a royal picnic item gone rogue. Historians still argue whether its straw wrapping had symbolic meaning or just kept the ants away. By now, your mouth feels like it's been on a fermented roller coaster, and your tongue might file a complaint, but the sensory overload is almost exhilarating. A group of elderly women sits at the bow of another boat, laughing over cups of homemade pickled plum juice. You're handed one. It's sour, a little salty, and oddly comforting. The plums are wrinkled like tiny elders floating at the bottom, like they're telling stories to each other. One woman says the juice is good for digestion. Another says it's good for heartbreak. The third says it's good for both because those two often come together, don't they? You sip, she's not wrong. The boat eases back into the slow current. You lean over the edge, dipping your fingers into the water, which smells blessedly neutral after that much fermented bravado. You look up at the late afternoon sky, golden and slanted, wondering how many of these flavors were born out of necessity. How many began as, "How do we not waste this?" and ended with, "How do we get more of this?" The sun hangs low, and somewhere nearby, someone's opening another jar. You can smell it. You float forward into the late afternoon glow, the fermented fireworks still echoing gently across your taste buds. But now something earthier coils through the air, woody, smoky, maybe even a little bitter. You sniff, squint, and spot a pair of low wooden rafts tethered together and ringed with bamboo baskets. From their centers rises steam so thick it blurs the outlines of the cooks. Welcome to the herbal snack realm where flavor meets function, and your insides get a gentle nudge sometimes in ways you didn't ask for. A girl no older than 10 hands you a cup of something warm and translucent, garnished with basil seeds that squiggle like little frog eggs in their jelly coats. You sip. It's sweet herbal, slightly grassy, and surprisingly soothing. She calls it nuoc sam, a cooling drink brewed from a mix of longan-flower, sugarcane, corn silk, and herbs with names that sound like ancient poetry. "Good for the liver," she says proudly. You nod solemnly as if you know exactly what your liver's been going through lately. Across the raft, an older woman with an impressive mole collection is scooping out ban juk la dua ma, a soft, jelly-like cake made with rice flour and pandan leaf extract. The green is luminous, almost radioactive under the sun. She drizzles coconut cream on top and offers it to you in a banana leaf bowl. It's cool and silky, subtly sweet, with that signature pandan aroma like vanilla if it had grown up in the tropics and taken up yoga. Some believe this dessert began as temple fare, created by monks using rice flour offerings. Others suggest it evolved from early medicinal food designed to balance the inner heat. Historians still argue whether pandan was valued more for its flavor or its cooling properties. A vendor nearby is pounding herbs and sticky rice together in a clay mortar to create ixoi la cam, sticky rice dyed deep purple from butterfly pea flour. The color alone makes your inner child squeal. He scoops a lump into your hand and tops it with shredded coconut and a sprinkle of roasted peanuts. It tastes like nutty, fragrant memory foam. He says the color symbolizes spiritual clarity. You nod like you've just attained enlightenment through a starch-based sacrament. Further down, a gentle man with sun-weathered cheeks and a collection of dried roots at his feet sells Che Yao Zan, hot senmung, bean and lotus seed sweet soup. You're handed a warm bowl. The mung beans are soft, the lotus seeds mealy, but calming, floating in a light syrup that hints at ginger and the faintest bit of licorice. The vendor hums as he serves, his voice drifting over the steam. He says lotus seeds help calm the heart. You sleep better, he whispers like it's a promise. Nearby, a group of women is kneading dough made from cassava and herbs to prepare bantam kwai, mi cassava worm cakes, though don't panic, they just look like worms. The name's affectionate, the taste even more so. Slightly chewy, coated in grated coconut and a drizzle of palm sugar syrup, these little worms go down easier than you'd expect. The cassava base comes from roots boiled down to paste and left to ferment just enough to develop a springy texture. You learn that during lean years, families would forage herbs and mix them into the dough for added nutrition. Historians still argue whether the worm shape was deliberate or just what happened when no one had a proper cookie mold. A boy on a skiff holds up what looks like twisted rope, mut gung, candied ginger slices sun-dried and rolled in sugar. You bite one and nearly sneeze from the spice. It's sharp, warm, medicinal, and addictive. He offers a second slice, this time dipped in a tamarind glaze. It kicks you awake like an herbal alarm clock. He tells you ginger was for the stomach and you believe him. Your stomach now a complex battleground of che shrimp paste and lotus seed size and appreciation. A more reclusive boat sells tra hoa kooks, dried chrysanthemum tea with jujubes and a whisper of rock sugar. You sip and feel the heat in your body mellow. Your eyes blink slower. The vendor warns not to drink it late or you'll sleep until tomorrow. You challenge him with a wink and sip deeper. Then there's Rauma juice pennywort. It looks like a green smoothie that never got invited to brunch. The taste grassy, almost metallic, and vaguely like what lawn clippings might taste like if you added sugar and hope. Still you drink it. It's supposedly miraculous for your blood. Or maybe your complexion, or your chi. The details are always vague, but the conviction is strong. One woman sells roasted turmeric mixed into sticky rice balls. Another offers che hat a, with basil seeds, crushed ice, and pandan jelly, swirling in a chaotic yet satisfying soup of texture. These are snacks you don't just eat, you experience. Some of them are tasty, some are tolerable, and some feel like herbal dares, but they all whisper the same thing. Eat this, and maybe you'll live longer. You hear a grandfather tell his granddaughter that certain leaves, if boiled long enough, can chase away sadness. She laughs, calls him a liar, and drinks anyway. The herb boat is that kind of place, half apothecary, half candy shop, all wrapped in generations of river wisdom. You reflect that many of these snacks were never invented for pleasure alone. They were remedies disguised as sweets, comfort, disguised as ritual. You're not even sure where the medicine ends and the dessert begins. Maybe they were never meant to be separate. As the herb-scented fog lifts behind you, a warm smokiness rolls in. It's not medicinal, it's carnivorous. And just like that, your sweet herbal reverie evaporates. Barbecue. Something's sizzling up ahead. You hear it before you see it, tiny frantic sizzles as oil meets meat, the hiss and spit of something grilling over charcoal. Then comes the smell curling into your nostrils like a flirtatious ghost. Smoky, meaty, sweet with a hint of char. Your stomach, despite its current herbal residency, sits up in anticipation. You drift closer. It's a modest boat, just one clay stove, a woven tray of skewers, and a woman with forearms of steel flipping meat like a maestro. She waves you over with tongs. Bonwang lalat, she says, holding up a skewer of beef wrapped in wild battle leaves. You bite. The beef is tender, juicy, just peppery enough, and the leaf earthy, slightly minty with a charred edge that adds drama. It's like a forest picnic with attitude. She tells you betel leaves were often used for more than wrapping. Some folks rubbed them on sore joints or chewed them with areca nuts to stain their teeth red and their social status higher. Historians still argue whether the red-toothed smile was more beauty statement or betrothal signal. You nod politely and pretend not to worry about your dental situation. Next to her is a bamboo raft holding nem nuong, grilled fermented pork sausage skewers browning beautifully over an open flame. They snap when bitten, releasing juice that's a little sweet, a little sour, and a lot of trouble in the best way. Some say nem nuong began as a royal snack, while others insist it was street food for the masses. Either way, you're glad someone kept the fire going. It's served with a slice of cucumber and a ribbon of pickled carrot, just enough freshness to reset your mouth before the next one. Beside her is a teenage boy fanning coals under a pan of sizzling banjo, batter Vietnamese sizzling pancakes. These golden crispy crepes are made from rice flour and turmeric filled with shrimp pork and bean sprouts. When he folds one onto a palm leaf plate and hands it to you, it crackles as if it's still applauding itself. You wrap it in mustard leaves, add herbs, dip it in sweet fish sauce, and take a bite. Boom. Texture explosion. Crunchy outside, juicy shrimp, inside cool herbal wrap, and that sauce, bright, tangy, perfectly calibrated chaos. You cough once from surprise more than spice. The boy smirks. You weren't ready, he says. He's right. A few boats over a man is grilling cha quay cinnamon pork patties. You hear the sizzle of pork fat and the faint, unmistakable whiff of cinnamon. He slices a sample and places it on a piece of rice cracker. You bite and the pork is soft, spongy, almost cake-like, with that curious sweetness that only cinnamon and meat can deliver. Legend has it these were temple offerings once before monks realized even the gods might share. Others claim they were reserved for the wealthy, only made on New Year's Eve. Historians still argue whether the cinnamon was added for preservation or just flair. Across the canal, a squat woman in an apron, the color of soy sauce, is flipping skewers of ga nong sa lemongrass chicken grilled over open flame. The smoke is perfume, the meat juicy, fragrant, spiked with grilled shallots. She dips it in a concoction of lime salt and chili, and your mouth forgets every herbal drink it ever met. She tells you she's been making this since she was 8. She's 65 now. Her teeth are long gone, but her sense of seasoning is eternal. She offers you grilled frog legs next. You hesitate. She shrugs. Tastes like chicken. And weirdly, it does. You chew. It's firm, smoky, and surprisingly clean. She tells you frogs were more than food. They were part of rain-calling rituals in certain villages. Eat them, honor them, she says, and suddenly you're not sure if you're participating in history or getting hexed. Another man balances a whole roasted quail on a stick lacquered in 5-spice and honey. He calls it chim ki, and your first bite is like a tiny, overachieving duck. Crispy skin, gamey meat, intense seasoning. This bird clearly lived fast and roasted hard. He serves it with a dipping salt made of roasted rice powder and chili. You press your fingers to your lips after each bite, like you're sealing a promise to come back here someday. Just behind him, a mother-daughter duo prepares ban choi nong, banana cake baked over charcoal and clay pots. You pause, suspicious. This isn't meat, but your curiosity votes yes. The cake is warm, caramelized at the edges, soft inside with chunks of ripe banana. It's barely sweet, but rich, almost custardy. The mother says she uses a splash of coconut milk and a touch of salt to keep it honest. She winks. Even cake needs balance. A different kind of skewer catches your eye. Trung vit lan. Fertilized duck eggs boiled and served with herbs, salt, and lime. The infamous balut. The vendor cracks one open and peels it gently. Inside is a nearly formed duck embryo floating in savory broth. You take a deep breath and politely decline. He laughs, not offended. It's okay, he says. Bravery comes in layers. He pops it himself and chews with satisfaction. Some call it a protein bomb, others a rite of passage. Historians still argue whether it began as poverty food or delicacy, possibly both. Either way, you respect it from a distance. The sun begins to dip behind the tree line, casting long shadows across the water. Smoke rises in thin spirals. The boats glow softly, lit from underneath by embers and oil lamps. You're full, maybe beyond full. Your shirt smells like 12 different fires. Your fingers are sticky. Your face carries the telltale gloss of grilled meats and satisfaction. As you lean back watching a kid roast sweet potatoes directly on hot coals, you marvel at the paradox. For all its chaos, the floating market runs like a careful practiced dance. Fire meets water, smoke clings to herbs, and somehow between all the hands, mouths, and boats, nothing is ever really lost. You exhale slowly like your breath has joined the smoke rising around you. But don't nod off just yet. There's a different kind of flavor up ahead. Something pickled, something preserved, and just a little bit sweet. The warmth of the grilled meats still lingers in your chest, but something sharper now cuts through the balmy air, briny vinegary, with a twinge of fermented mischief. You drift toward it like a curious cat sniffing out trouble. Ahead, small glass jars line a wooden raft like glowing potion bottles. Each one contains something suspended in golden brine, or syrup, fruits, roots, vegetables, and some unidentifiables. Welcome to the world of pickled and preserved snacks, a floating apothecary of time-capsuled flavor. A sprightly vendor with pickled plum-colored lips waves a skewer at you. On it, a glossy, wrinkled orb she calls Mutt Man, candied plum, chewy and sweet with a salted edge. You bite in and your jaw nearly locks from the punch of sour and sweet and something medicinal. Good for your throat, she declares before you can speak. Also heartbreak. Well, it's potent, you'll give it that. She hands you another. This one's Oh My Sao, a preserved dracontomelon fruit, Vietnam's answer to sour gummies, if your gummies came with a kick of chili salt and existential clarity. It's puckering, spicy complex, and oddly addictive. Behind her large earthen jars hold pickled garlic, daikon carrots, lotus root, and green papaya, all bobbing in a sea of vinegar, fish sauce, and sometimes sugar. A boy offers you a slice of chashiqq, pickled scallion head, traditionally eaten during Tet. Crunchy, sharp, and slightly sweet, it reminds you of onions that got dressed up for a party and decided not to leave. His grandmother proudly explains that during the 1800s, most families prepared their own jars of pickles before Lunar New Year. It was a symbol of prosperity and preservation. If you could keep vegetables through the dry season, you were winning. Historians still argue whether this tradition was a practical response to climate or a ceremonial one tied to ancestor worship. You sample douamon, a medley of pickled vegetables dyed slightly orange from carrots and turmeric. The flavor is tart but warm, balance between crispness and chew. It's like biting into history and finding it pleasantly acidic. Further along, you're handed a piece of dried mango coated in chili sugar. It's leathery, sweet, spicy, and the mango tang clings to your molars in the best way. You ask how it's made, and the vendor shrugs. You dry it under the sun. If it rains, you start over. Fair enough. Another boat deals in mut gung, but this version is thin sliced and dusted with sugar. It melts in your mouth with a mild zing. You're told sailors and traders used to chew it to stave off seasickness. Others carried it as protection against cold wind spirits. A few locals still swear by it when storms roll in. At the next raft, rows of glossy preserved fruits gleam like jellyfish. Tamarind, ambarella starfruit, and green mango, all soaking in syrup or chili salt. You try one that looks like a lime but tastes like an electrified pickle, tangy and effervescent. The seller says it's siko ngam. Pickled hog plum, a snack she grew up sneaking from her grandmother's stash jar. She laughs, remembering the way the vinegar would sting her nose, how the anticipation was as much fun as the flavor. You laugh too, mouth-watering for reasons beyond control. Another vendor offers ximoy, salted dried plum dark as midnight and covered in powdered licorice and salt. The texture is dense, the flavor smoky, medicinal, and intense. It makes your mouth water, she says, and your memories too. Indeed, something about it tastes ancient. You wonder how many river journeys this tiny plum has endured. A boat next to hers specializes in mam ruck fermented shrimp paste. You raise an eyebrow. She grins. Snack for the brave. She offers a slice of green mango dipped in the paste, and against your better judgment, you accept. It's wild, sharp, salty beyond belief. The shrimp paste smacks your palate like a briny thunderclap. The mango counters with green tartness. It's a flavor duel, and somehow you're the winner. You learn that such intense condiments were not only taste enhancers, but also practical solutions. Preserving shrimp this way allowed fishing villages to keep protein year-round. Historians still argue whether the invention of shrimp paste came from necessity or accident, perhaps both. One story claims a forgotten bucket of salted shrimp turned magical after a few weeks under the sun. Another says it was deliberately buried and aged like wine with legs. You chew thoughtfully on a piece of dried ambarella, its fibrous flesh soaked in chili sugar, and think about flavor as survival. These pickled preserved things weren't made just to taste good. They were strategies. Ways to keep food when seasons didn't cooperate. Ways to trick your senses into believing you had more than you did. You see a mother handing her daughter a pickled guava slice. The girl grimaces, then giggles. Her taste buds clearly weren't warned. Another boy dares his brother to suck on a dried tamarind pod, the sourness turning his face into a slow-motion wince. These aren't just snacks, they're initiation rituals. By now your tongue is practically buzzing from all the vinegar, salt, and spice. You slurp a bit of iced Tray Tak Kumquat tea to rinse it off, but the tang lingers. It's a good kind of haunted. Floating past the last pickle boat, a man balances on a canoe with a massive basket of banned to sticky rice cakes made with ginger sugar and sesame seeds wrapped in banana leaves and pressed into firm, chewy discs. Technically not preserved, but they keep for months thanks to the sugar and ginger. He grins, tells you they were once common during storm seasons when fresh food was scarce, but you still needed calories. You bite in. It's chewy, rich, and warm with ginger. The sesame adds just enough bitterness to keep things honest. He offers you another for the road wrapped in palm fiber string. You tuck it into your bag, a little memory to carry with you. The sun has dipped even lower now, and the pickled boats glow like lanterns. You feel the tang on your breath, the vinegar still singing faintly at the back of your tongue. Your belly hums like a half-filled jar of tamarind. You think about how these snacks aren't meant for everyone. They're bold, sometimes strange, often intense, but they last. They hold stories. They age with flavor and memory, and in the right moment, they're exactly what you didn't know you needed. As the floating jars fade into the distance, the air begins to sweeten. Literally. There's smoke, yes, but it's laced with caramel, with roasted peanuts, with something that smells suspiciously like childhood. And just like that, your savory adventure swerves into dessert territory. You barely have time to finish licking the tamarind glaze off your fingers before it hits you, that unmistakable dreamlike aroma of something sugary just starting to caramelize. It floats through the air like an invitation you weren't expecting, but immediately accept. Your feet move before your brain catches up. Some part of you has already decided dessert is happening. Your eyes lock on the source, an old man crouched low beside a battered bronze pan, swirling a thick, bubbling mixture with a wooden paddle. He lifts the spoon, lets the molten gold drip, and then carefully twirls it onto a slab of banana leaf. It cools into a glossy spiral, ko, or Vietnamese pulled sugar candy. You bite into the warm coil and it stretches like taffy. The outside cracks delicately, but the core stays soft. It's simple sugar and peanuts, but it dances between textures chewy, crunchy, syrupy. We used to trade this for feathers, the man jokes. You laugh, unsure if he's serious. Historians still argue whether ko was inspired by Chinese pulled candy or homegrown ingenuity fueled by leftover sugar cane in idle hands. Next to him, a woman is cutting squares from a brick of ko laxi, peanut brittle, dense and golden. She offers you a piece and it shatters gloriously in your mouth. Roasted peanuts tumble through sticky caramel and just a hint of ginger smolders in the background. She's added puffed rice to the mix for the crunch, and the surprise, she says with a smile that suggests she's done this for longer than most of us have been alive. You thank her, but her eyes are already on her flame. You respect the focus. Drifting onward, the next boat looks like a dessert garden exploded. Glutinous rice flour, mung bean paste, coconut milk, and colorful jellies. This is the land of Che Vietnamese sweet soup, or rather a galaxy of them. One boy stirs a vat of Che Jiao Zhang, sweet mung bean porridge. It's pale yellow, thick and comforting, like a dessert wearing pajamas. You spoon it into your mouth. It's sweet, but not offensively so. The mung beans have disintegrated into velvet. The coconut milk swirls in like a whisper of cream. A faint note of pandan leaves lingers. The boy tells you his aunt sleeps with pandan leaves in her pillow for sweet dreams. And fewer mosquitoes, he adds. You're not sure which part is the actual perk. Beside him is a more elaborate cup, Yonot Chebamao, or three-color dessert. Red beans green jelly and yellow mung bean paste layered under coconut milk and crushed ice. It looks like a tropical traffic light and tastes like everything a humid afternoon ever wanted. You crunch the ice, scoop the soft beans, and sip the syrup. Texture, flavor, temperature, all on a loop. Historians still argue whether the three layers symbolize anything spiritual. Some claim they represent harmony between past, present, and future. Others say someone just like playing with color. Either way, your spoon keeps dipping deeper. Another woman serves chichoy, banana cooked in coconut milk with tapioca pearls. It's warm, soupy, and tastes like nostalgia, even if you've never had it before. The bananas are soft, borderline pudding, and the tapioca gives it just enough resistance. She says some people use plantains, others insist on sugar bananas. It's a matter of pride. You nod sagely as if you have strong banana opinions. Really, you just don't want her to stop giving you food. A few feet away, someone is ladling out che bap sweet corn pudding. You hesitate because corn and dessert seem like awkward cousins. But one taste and you're sold. The kernels pop like sunshine, the coconut milk smooths everything out, and the rice thickens it into something far more magical than its humble ingredients suggest. She says this is good for when you don't want to cry, but you're close. You don't question it. She's not wrong. A different boat offers ban in small rice cakes molded into floral shapes, often flavored with mung bean or sesame. You bite into one and it crumbles like chalky shortbread, then melts like sugar snow. Originally served during ancestral offerings, these were once symbols of honor and respect. You silently dedicate your bite to all the ghosts who never got their fair share. To your left, a boy cracks open a clay mold to reveal ban taong. Honeycomb cake, deep brown and spongy with visible air pockets. It jiggles when he cuts it. You take a bite. It's caramel sweet, springy, and faintly smoky. Made from tapioca flour and coconut sugar, its flavor lingers like burnt toffee. He claims it's hard to make properly. The sugar must be right on the edge of burning to unlock that taste. 1 second too late, and it's just charcoal with regrets, he says. Nearby, a girl is frying something pale and puffed. It's ban tio, Vietnamese hollow donuts. Sesame speckled and golden. They're crisp on the outside and fluffy inside, hollow, like a tiny balloon. She gives you one hot from the pan. You rip it open, the steam sighs, and you inhale a bite that tastes like Sunday mornings and skip school. Better than air, she winks. She hands you another filled with mung bean paste. Luxury version, she calls it. You agree. This feels like edible silk pajamas. A mother nearby folds sticky rice into banana leaves. You watch as she presses it flat, adds coconut shreds and mashed banana, then rolls it tight and ties it with bamboo string. It's ban tet choy, sweet banana sticky rice cake. Traditionally made during Tet, but also sold here for anyone nostalgic enough. You bite into its soft, sticky heft and a sliver of pink banana peeks out like a hidden gem. She tells you in old times, poor families would use this to replace a full meal. One slice could carry a laborer through an entire afternoon. You nod your stomach, believing every word. Across from her, a man sprinkles toasted coconut and sesame over ban bo nuong, a spongy pandan cake baked over coals. You try a piece. It's like a marshmallow got a degree in complex carbohydrates, springy, slightly sweet, and vaguely herbal from the pandan. Some say it's named after a cow's hoof bao because of the airy webbed interior. Others say that's nonsense, but the cake itself doesn't care. It just keeps being delicious. You lean against a wooden pole and watch syrup being poured, cakes wrapped coconut shaved onto jellies. There's something childlike in the ritual of it all, this pleasure, not just in eating, but in crafting. You wonder how many generations have stood on boats just like this, carving sweetness from steam and sugar. By now your belly is warm, your fingers sticky, your breath full of coconut and caramel. The sugar boats drift behind you. Ahead, something darker looms, metallic pots, ceramic jars, long sticks wrapped in banana leaves. Savory is coming back, but this time it's fermented. It's dried, it's jerky, it's survival food. And if the dessert boats were a dream, these next ones, they might be the wild side of that dream. The cheerful chorus of sweets is barely behind you when the mood begins to shift. The air grows heavier, darker, smokier, tinged with a tang that scratches the back of your throat and tickles your curiosity. A different kind of boat approaches its deck, lined not with colorful sweets or glistening syrup, but with slabs of something leathery, something ancient-looking hung like laundry from bamboo poles. A man with a bandana and suspiciously few teeth waves you over. Kobo, he rasps dried beef. Jerky, but not like you know it. This isn't shrink-wrapped and bought at a gas station. This is sun-dried fire-charred, pounded with lemongrass chili and fish sauce, then smoked until it earns your respect. You rip a strip with your teeth and it resists in that satisfyingly chewy way. The flavor unfolds slowly, first sweet, then spicy, then smoky. It's like eating campfire memories. He tells you that in the 1800s, dried meat was a luxury snack for long river journeys. Salt preserved it. Smoke honored it. Historians still argue whether Kenny Kobo came from Chinese traders passing through or whether it was inspired by indigenous methods of preserving game in the Central Highlands. Either way, it's endured because it works. Next to him, his sister tends a smaller batch of coca loki, dried snakehead fish. Flat, scaly, and surprisingly fragrant, it's been marinated in turmeric galangal and sugar before being sun-cured into strips. You chew on a bite, and it flakes into salty sweetness, far less fishy than you feared. She laughs. It's the fish you eat when you miss someone. You raise an eyebrow. Because it tastes like longing, she shrugs. Because it lasts. Preservation here is emotional as well as edible. Further along, a boy fans coals beneath skewers of mukmat nang. Squid dried under one sun. Not two, not three. Just one day of heat to tenderize and preserve, followed by a flash grill over the fire. You try a piece. It's rubbery at first, then floods your mouth with sea brine and sugar. Dipped in chili salt and lime juice, it becomes almost candy-like if candy ever came from the bottom of the ocean. You ask about the one sun thing. He grins. More than that, it's too hard. Less and it spoils. One sun's just right. It's oddly poetic, like a snack Goldilocks would approve of. A woman nearby is cracking open a jar of mam khao lin, fermented mudfish paste. Your nose flinches before your mouth can protest. It's pungent, powerful, and strangely appetizing. She offers a rice cracker topped with the paste shredded green papaya and a squeeze of lime. Against your better judgment, you take a bite. It's chaotic in the best way, salty, funky, tangy, crisp. A flavor grenade with historical credentials. She explains that this particular mom was a staple for migrant workers in the Mekong Delta. It didn't need refrigeration. It could be stored for months. It turned plain rice into a meal. You're impressed and slightly terrified. The next boat serves kogalashonakanan, dried shredded chicken with kaffir lime leaves. The scent is citrusy, peppery, alive. You grab a handful and nibble on the strands. It's soft, savory, slightly sweet with bursts of lime and chili. Perfect for sneaking into long canoe rides or school lunches, the vendor says. You imagine a 10-year-old grinning at this instead of a peanut butter sandwich. Nearby, her cousin is packaging koheo chai, toy garlicky dried pork with fried shallots. You take one piece and suddenly wish you hadn't because now you need 5 more. It's that good. Crunchy, savory, mildly spicy with little crispy garlic slivers clinging to the edges. She says this snack used to be made from leftover pork cuts after market sales dried and fried to avoid waste. Nothing was ever thrown away. Remember the pickle logic, that mantra of make it last. This is that crispy and carnivorous. A few feet down, a quiet man offers tep ko dried baby shrimp. He toasts a handful in a pan, sprinkles it with rice powder, and serves it atop a slice of steamed banana. It sounds weird, looks weirder, and tastes oddly brilliant. Salty shrimp, sweet banana, crunchy powder. Your brain takes a moment to process. He nods solemnly like a flavor monk. He says dried shrimp were once used as currency during harsh seasons. They're tiny, but they add up. You nod mouthful. A child nearby offers you a chunk of kobo la sham, dried beef with lime leaves. It's meatier than the last batch, almost jerky with ambition. You ask him if he made it. He grins, Grandpa dries it. I do the leaf part. Seems fair. One boat over, a woman fans dried anchovies. Kakakam ko, She roasts them in sugar and chili, turns them sticky and spicy, and wraps them in a banana leaf like a candy. You pop one into your mouth and wince sweet and hot with a crispy crunch that wakes your sinuses. Snack for strong teeth, she chuckles. A small group sits nearby, rolling cha bong, pork floss, into balls and dusting them with toasted rice. You try one. It disintegrates into savory cotton candy. She tells you warriors in the old dynasties carried this on long campaigns. You can eat it with rice, with porridge, with fingers. You agree, licking yours. Historians still debate whether pork floss originated in Vietnam or was adopted from Chinese traditions and adapted by local techniques. Either way, this floss isn't for teeth, it's for hearts. Another woman presents you with trung vịt, moi, salted duck egg, boiled, sliced, and topped on a sliver of sticky rice. The yolk is neon orange, rich like velvet and intensely savory. The white is firm, almost rubbery, like a cheese pretending to be egg. It's oddly addictive. She says some people eat it like candy. You start to believe her. The preservation snacks continue: dried lotus seeds, toasted with honey-roasted jackfruit chips, sun-dried bananas rolled in sesame. Each one tells the same story in different dialects: how to make something last beyond its season, how to capture the abundance of now for the hunger of later. You pause. Your fingers smell like fish smoke, sugar, lime, and garlic. It's weird. It's wonderful. Looking up, you see children chewing on dried tamarind sticks, old women snacking on crunchy frog skin, men trading bites of squid over a chessboard. These aren't just snacks. They're portable culture, pocket-sized identity, and you're lucky enough to taste them. But even with all this preservation, nothing lasts forever. The sun is sinking, and the firelight from the boats begins to dance on the river. You hear something soft, hollow, a rhythmic thunk, thunk, thunk. Someone is pounding something, and the scent: roasted sesame, toasted rice, maybe even green beans. Ahead, the dessert changes again. This time sticky, chewy, sweet, but with a story built on ritual and rhythm. That thunk, thunk, thunk grows louder, like a drum beat, drawing you into the next act. You drift closer, the current of curiosity too strong to resist. And then you see it: a man with forearms like tree trunks, raising a wooden mallet high above a thick stone slab. Beside him, a sticky mass of something golden and gleaming gets rhythmically pummeled into submission. Hario bon com nep nen. Pounded glutinous rice candy. This is no dainty pastry. This is a snack forged like a weapon through heat, pressure, and patience. The mixture is simple glutinous rice flour, roasted mung beans, sugar, sometimes a whisper of pandan or a sprinkle of sesame. But the process is theater. The rice is steamed until sticky, then folded over with sugar and beans while still hot. It's then transferred to a granite slab and pounded thump after hypnotic thump until it turns glossy, elastic, and obedient. You take a sample, still warm, cut into a neat square and wrapped in banana leaf. It yields slightly as you bite in. The texture is somewhere between fudge and taffy, and the flavor, it's a time capsule. Earthy beans, rich molasses, and that grainy chew of something you know isn't fast food. A teenage girl smiles as she fans pieces dry on a bamboo tray. My grandmother says this candy helps keep family arguments short. You blink. Because it's sweet, because it glues your mouth shut. Fair enough. A few boats down, there's a different rhythm, a tinier tap, 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 as an old woman folds bits of sticky rice dough around sugar and ginger. She's making bon eat tran, little sticky rice cakes without the banana leaf wrapping. Each one a soft, translucent pillow filled with sweet mung bean paste or caramelized coconut. Steam rises from bamboo baskets beside her, billowing like clouds from a dragon's nostrils. The flavor's gentle, sweetness that doesn't scream, and when you eat it, it sticks just long enough to force you to slow down to appreciate the quiet labor behind it. You ask how long she's been making these. She grins, toothless but proud, since before your country knew chopsticks. Not far off, a pair of boys take turns spinning a giant wheel. It looks like a medieval torture device, but it's actually an old-fashioned sesame press. They're extracting fragrant oil to drizzle over squares of bon in compressed rice flour cakes embossed with symbols. These are ceremonial, often used during lunar festivals or ancestral offerings. But tonight they're just snacks. Sacred, yes, but also crunchy. You taste one, and it crumbles like chalk-sweet sandy and unexpectedly addictive. There's something humbling about eating food that once demanded prayers before consumption. You consider bowing. Settle for a nod. Historians still argue whether banh-in originated purely for religious offerings or if it began as a common snack later imbued with spiritual symbolism. Either way, you're pretty sure your soul just got blessed. Then you spot it glimmering amber shards under glass, sugar sculptures, machin hakeo to be exact. Malt syrup pulled into golden strands twisted into intricate shapes, dragons, fish, birds, even a tiny paddle boat. The artist uses chopsticks and a kind of iron nail to shape the syrup before it cools and hardens. You watch mesmerized as he finishes a phoenix and hands it to a child who promptly bites off its head. You try a piece sticky rich with a hint of grain from the malt base. It's like taffy with a degree in fine arts. Next to him, a shy girl offers you something wrapped tightly in wild grass. You open it to reveal a pale square of something jiggly, Rao Kao Zhuang Fen, agar jelly made with rock sugar and herbal infusions. It shimmers in the firelight, tasting like flowers, like summer rain, like your tongue just walked barefoot through a garden. She explains that this jelly, though popular now, once doubled as medicine. Sweetness soothed the spirit, herbs cooled the body. You're not sure if your temperature drops, but your pulse definitely slows. Another vendor hands you a tiny cone made of dried coconut leaf. Inside a dark glistening cube, bandalon, literally pigskin cake. But fear not, it contains no pig. It's named for the gelatinous texture stacked in colorful layers of pandan mung bean and taro. You pull it apart layer by layer like edible origami. Each bite is smooth, earthy, and just sweet enough to remind you it's dessert, not dinner. A nearby grandma gestures for you to sit and offers che lamb. You accept, of course. It's a peanut-studded, sticky rice treat, thick with malt and ginger dusted with roasted flour to keep the outside dry. It looks tough. It is. You chew for what feels like a geological era. But then reward. Spicy heat from the ginger, roasty crunch from the peanuts, a candy for people with time and molars. She tells you this was the snack of workers. One piece lasts hours, just like the work. Then there's keo keo, the Vietnamese answer to taffy pullers everywhere. Palm sugar and malt syrup are boiled, stretched, and folded by hand until they gleam like golden ropes. Sometimes they're rolled around peanuts, sometimes black sesame, sometimes nothing at all but pride. A boy walks past you clutching one end of a keo keo string while his sister bites the other. It's a weird trust exercise and a sticky one. You try it solo. It pulls, stretches, and finally snaps with a satisfying twang. Around you, more jelly towers rise, more sesame seeds crackle, more sticky fingers. Wave in greeting. You're not just watching snack history, you're becoming part of it one bite at a time. Just when you think you can't chew anymore, a child tugs at your sleeve. She offers you a small flat square on a banana leaf. You glance at her. She nods solemnly. Brie bound to ancestor cake. Made once a year, shared among family, carried downriver to festivals and homecomings. You take a bite. It's dense, rich with brown sugar and rice flour flavored with ginger and smoke. The taste is sweet, but the feeling bittersweet. This one isn't just for eating, it's for remembering. And you do. You remember every boat, every bite, every smiling vendor who fed you stories with their snacks. The floating market isn't just alive, it's alive in you now. Ahead, you spot one final boat. Its lanterns glow softer like the last page of a book. The air is still, the sweets gentler. The crunch and crackle gives way to something smoother, slower. It's time to close the curtain with something that tastes like home. The final boat drifts toward you like a lullaby. Its hull is older, worn smooth by decades of tides and trade. The lanterns hanging above sway gently, their golden light shimmering on the water, like scattered stars. There's a hush here, not silence, but reverence. This isn't the place for noisy sales calls or sizzling griddles. This is where nostalgia comes to snack. You're greeted by a pair of sisters, both in their 60s, wearing conical hats and aprons that have absorbed more sugar than any health guide would approve. They offer you a small porcelain dish without a word. You glance down, just a few golden cubes of what looks like thick jelly dusted in white. Fershabrehi takgung, herbal jelly. You take a bite and blink. It's cool, barely sweet, almost grassy. The kind of flavor you don't notice until it's gone. It slides down your throat like a summer breeze and you suddenly realize how warm you've become. Made from leaves, one sister explains. Pounded, filtered left to set. No sugar added, just patience. This jelly was once a staple during the hottest months, often served with crushed ice and a trickle of syrup. Floating markets kept jars of it chilled under damp cloths. It wasn't flashy, but it got you through the worst of the heat. There's a kind of wisdom in that, knowing what your body needs before your cravings catch up. Nearby, her sister prepares chetroy nuoc, and your heart does a tiny hop. You've seen these before: glutinous rice balls floating in warm ginger syrup. One is gently ladled into your bowl. You lift its steam trailing like incense and take a bite. The rice shell is soft and chewy. The mung bean filling inside is lightly sweet and earthy and calming. The syrup is the real magic, though, fiery, fragrant, and soothing in equal measure. Ancestor offering, she says. But we eat it too. You smile. It's a dessert designed to honor the dead and quietly comfort the living. Historians still argue whether Che Troi Nuashuan was created solely for ceremonial use, or if it started out as an everyday treat that later gained spiritual symbolism. Either way, it became a staple for full moons in memory. A few seats away, a man with calloused hands and an apron dusted in powdered sugar fans trays of ban pude. Husband and wife cakes. Once considered essential for weddings, these sweet parcels of mung bean and coconut are wrapped in pandan leaves like tiny treasure chests. You bite into one. The outside is soft and chewy, the filling rich and fragrant, like a well-written love letter, sweet but not cloying. Honest. Used to say, he chuckles, if you eat this, your marriage lasts. You nod. Does it work? He shrugs. I've been divorced 3 times, but the cake's good. Next, an old woman is ladling out sambolong, a chilled sweet soup. It's a medley longan, lotus seeds, white fungus, seaweed, jelly barley, and just a touch of rock sugar syrup. Floating jewels in a bowl of cold tea. You hesitate. She doesn't. You sip. It's confusing, but good confusing. Each bite is different, crunchy, chewy, slippery, crisp. The flavors barely register as sugar. They're more floral, earthy, cooling. You feel like your organs are exhaling. This was the dessert of herbalists and caretakers. Part treat, part tonic. You don't know whether to chew it or meditate with it. Maybe both. A girl nearby pulls out a tin of Keomezung sesame peanut candy from Hue. Chewy, sticky, and wrapped like treasure, these candies require effort and offer satisfaction. You pop one in your mouth and immediately your teeth get to work. It's rich, nutty, sweet, but with a balance that feels grown up. She tells you these were often gifted during long journeys, to keep people thinking sweet things. Not bad advice. Then there's Chibapa's sweet corn pudding made from tender corn kernels, coconut milk, and a hint of tapioca. Served warm or cold, it's surprisingly delicate. You take a bite and it's like someone distilled a sunset in a bowl. The corn is fresh, creamy, a little grassy, and the coconut hums along underneath. The vendor explains that during harvest season, this dessert was a way to celebrate the abundance of the fields. But in leaner years, it reminded people of better days. There's something deeply comforting about that. Now you're handed a spoon and a bowl of che kwai mon. Taro sweet soup. Smooth purple and ever so slightly nutty, it looks like a potion and tastes like bedtime. It's thickened with glutinous rice flour flavored with coconut milk and served warm. You take a spoonful and feel yourself melt. By now you've noticed a pattern: the simpler the ingredients, the deeper the meaning. These desserts don't just fill you up. They slow you down. They make you feel things: nostalgia, serenity, gratitude, maybe even a little sadness that it's almost over. The sun has completely set. The firelight flickers low. The boats rock gently as if swaying to a lullaby only the river can hear. You finish with a piece of Keo Choi banana candy. Sticky, sweet, wrapped in jackfruit leaves. It's chewy with hints of roasted peanuts, coconut ribbons, and sesame seeds. One bite and it's like the whole delta shrank into a snack. The vendor smiles. This is how we say goodbye. With banana. You nod slowly, reverently. Not a dramatic farewell, just a gentle one. Like a wave that doesn't splash but softly fades back into the sea. The last of the snacks is eaten. The last of the steam has curled into the night. And now the river carries you gently toward stillness. The lanterns grow smaller behind you, now fading like the final bars of a lullaby. You lie back on a bamboo skiff someone left adrift, your belly full, and your thoughts fuzzy with sweetness. The air smells of palm sugarwood smoke and the faintest trace of pandan drifting from some forgotten basket. Somewhere behind you, a ladle clinks against a pot. A baby cries once, then settles. The river resumes its hum. But you're not finished just yet. The boat you now float past carries no name, no flag, no shouting vendor. Just a single man tending a large clay pot over embers. He doesn't speak, doesn't gesture. He simply stirs as though keeping time with the stars. You recognize the scent before anything else. Burnt sugar, rice, smoke. He's making calm chai. Crispy, scorched rice born not from intention, but from accident. A layer of rice left too long at the bottom of the pot, crisped golden, sometimes even blackened, then chipped out sun-dried, and later deep-fried to glorious effect. Sometimes topped with pork floss or sweetened fish sauce. But here tonight, it's just the rice, pure and proud. You take a bite. It snaps in half with an audible crack, then melts into toasted grain and memory. This is the flavor of resourcefulness, of never wasting, of making do and still making magic. A young boy nearby offers you ban tai yen, little swallow's nest cakes made from rice flour and sugar deep fried, so they puff in the middle but stay crispy on the edge. One look and you know why they're named after birds' nests. You take a bite, soft at the core, brittle at the edges, sugar-crusted and golden. These were once street sweets made by quick-handed vendors in copper pans and eaten on the way to anywhere. Birds never build the same nest twice, the boy tells you, solemnly licking sugar off his fingers. And just like that, you understand. The floating markets never stay the same. They shift season to season, tide to tide. But the essence, the warmth, the generosity, the stories tucked into every bite, those remain. A vendor hands you a final piece of banh to the same ancestor cake you tried before, but this one's smaller, warmer, wrapped tightly. She presses it into your palm like a blessing, not a transaction. Keep it for later, she whispers. Even the river rests, and now it's your turn to drift. The air slows. The boats begin to rock, less from commerce, more from rhythm, less from movement, more from memory. You lie back, hands behind your head, the taste of burnt sugar and toasted rice still clinging to your lips like old stories. The river hums not with trade now, but with hush. The kind of hush that settles only when everything that needed to be said has been spoken, every morsel tasted, every smile returned. The sky above you glows faintly, stars hidden behind soft clouds, as if even the heavens are wrapping themselves up for the night. There's no urgency left, no noise, just the gentle lap of water, the creak of wood, and the quiet echo of a world that once floated, sold, fed, and loved right here where you float now. You picture the vendors rolling up their mats, steam pots cleaned, banana leaves stacked, candy trays wrapped. They're going home. Or maybe they are home, on these boats, under these stars. Your stomach is full, yes, but it's your heart that's really fed, with laughter, with nostalgia, with the kind of peace that only comes when you're both very far from the modern world, and somehow closer to it than ever. So now you let your eyes close. Let the sounds blur, let the night deepen. Because the floating market has done its work, and the river, like the stories, is still.